Welcome to the inaugural podcast of Three Sides of the Coin. It's going to be a regular edition that we come up with here at CDN Publishing. Why Three Sides of the Coin? Because we're going to tell you, the obverse, the reverse, and the third story that you don't know about the coin business. That's our whole goal here at CDN Publishing. So this is our first edition. We're brought to you by here in beautiful downtown Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I'm sitting here with Patrick Ian Perez, the CDN editor, and I am John Feigenbaum, our publisher.
Right. And so in this podcast, of course, we'll talk about general market commentary, what's going on in the rare coin market, trends on specific series, especially things that you maybe couldn't see if you're not looking at pricing all day like we are in auction results and talking to dealers. What series are hot, which ones are not, which ones maybe completely unrecognized as value at the moment. Reports from all the national coin shows, from the bourse floor, especially kind of what's going on behind the scenes as much as we can. We'll tell you a little bit about what's going on in precious metals, maybe some stock market talk about as it relates to the rare coin business. We'll talk about some book reviews because I think that's important. Ongoing education is tremendously important as a numismatist to do. And then, of course, we'll talk about some of the projects that we have going on here at CDN that you can look forward to as a customer.
Yeah. And in case you're wondering who we are and what our credentials are, my name is John Feigenbaum, as I said, and I've been a coin collector since I was 5. I'm now 48 years old, and I followed my dad around at the Hialeah Coin Club in South Florida all the way up into fun shows in the 1970s, and founded with my father a big rare coin company, and I retired from that a few years ago and really wanted to give back to the hobby in terms of all the knowledge I have about trading. I've traded many hundreds of millions of dollars worth of coins, and now what I do is I apply the knowledge I've learned about trading and using my own money and applying that to the sheets so that other people can benefit from my understanding of where coins should be priced. And the news of the market, I know a lot about the back-end gossip, the third side of the coin, and things like that. So I'm happy to share it, and it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun doing this, and I'm looking forward to this next stage, which is the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Patrick, as John mentioned, and unlike John, I did not grow up collecting coins, but I collected everything under the sun since I was a kid. I mean, anything you could collect, I probably collected at one point in my life. But
you run out of space and money quickly.
Yeah, money quicker. But I found numismatics 10 years ago. Actually, 2018 June will be 10 years as a full-time professional numismatist. So that's kind of exciting for me. And I owned a coin shop for 6 years in Southern California, and so learned a lot obviously through that. Trading everything from circulated coins to bullion to paper money to antiques, whatever walked in the store. So it was a really great experience, great training ground. And same thing with John. I bring that experience and my relationships with dealers, especially on the West Coast, from California, to what we do here at CDN.
Right, and your knowledge of not only coins and paper money, you're the primary editor of the Greysheet and the Goldsheet, but also we could probably start a watch sheet tomorrow with Patrick's knowledge as well as a wine sheet. So we're gonna think about branching in those directions if Patrick has the time.
Sure.
Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Great.
Today's sponsors are Heritage Auctions at ha.com and Certified Collectors Group, which is the home of NGC and PMG. They can be found at www.ngccoin.com. So the first topic we want to discuss today on this podcast is the Collector's Price Guide, or CPG Coin and Currency Market Review. For those of you who've been living under a rock lately, this is our first publication of a retail price guide. We call it the Market Review, to be politically correct, frankly. But what this is a retail version of our wholesale price guides that come out every month. And we created this, first we created the values based on the fact that CDN for years published an ask price of 10% higher than the wholesale bids, which really wasn't enough spread for our readers, our coin dealers, to make a spread. It was a little too arbitrary. The better spread is probably more in the 25% range. So we've tweaked, and we're continuing to tweak, a CPG value based on the wholesale price. And that value, after we created 80,000 prices, we realized we needed a home for those prices in print because we had a lot of people requesting it. It's been available for free on our website at www.coinprices.com. However, people wanted to see it in print. And we also had a lot of dealer requests asking for it in print because dealers were complaining that collectors, were using the wholesale sheets against them in pricing. So this is now your retail friendly price sheet, and then the gray sheets and so on are wholesale friendly, and dealers can now make a spread between the buy and the sell based on these sheets. And what started out as an online guide became a printed guide in January. We were really excited about our initial exclusive interview on the cover of Deloy Hansen, who's a fascinating character in the rare coin hobby, and you should read about it in this first edition. But we're really excited because we've gotten a lot of good feedback, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, we should mention that it's available in print in the Numismatist, the magazine of the American Numismatic Association, which is received by all members. And if you're listening to this podcast, you should definitely be a member of the ANA.
Right. Shameless plug for ANA here at www.money.org for that purpose.
Right.
They're a great organization, and we support them wholeheartedly.
Exactly. And from the launch of the physical CPG market review at the Fun Show in Florida, we've gotten a lot of really good feedback. Lots of requests from smaller regional coin shows, which we're happy to fulfill. Free of charge. Of course, we do ask for shipping, but that's kind of standard. But dealers are also happy with it too. We see them quoting it in their emails and in their price lists as a legitimate retail price guide, or a price that collectors can be comfortable buying coins for that number.
What's really exciting too is that we've had a surprising number of coin shows and clubs of the numismatic clubs ask for copies for their membership, which we're happy to do for free. We, in wherever possible, we get reimbursed for postage shipping it to them. But it's been a tremendous vote of confidence from the market that they want copies of this, and we've been giving it out everywhere from the Fun Show and so on. And today, Billy came up with a great idea. Billy's our office manager here and takes care of a lot of the details in the marketing. And what she came up with a great idea that anybody subscribing at $29.99 a year, if they write in a nonprofit organization like the ANA or Tallahassee Coin Club or something like that, that will give back $10 each of that $30 to the organization. So
yeah, that's outstanding.
Yeah, we love the idea of giving back. And this is, we're here at CDN primarily. Our primary cause is to help the coin business and the coin hobby itself.
Exactly, and something born out of CPG and kind of its concept. And one thing that we should mention too is that CPG has a lot of pricing that we're not able to publish in our wholesale sheets, whether it be split grades or even series like some of the modern series that we don't necessarily cover or don't have room to print in the wholesale sheets. We do plan to put in the CPG because we know that's a heavily collected market. I think more and more people are getting the entry-level collectors start with, Eisenhower dollars or Kennedy halves or Lincoln cents, stuff like that. That's not traditionally covered in our wholesale sheets.
Right, and that's a good segue actually, because what we've learned about, and what we've been able to do in this larger print format has given us a really big idea. And the big idea that we're talking about doing and launching very soon, in fact, as soon as the May 2018 issues of our wholesale sheets, is a consolidated single sheet called the monthly gray sheet. So we're going to take the idea here is to take all of the gray sheet, monthly supplement, and the quarterlies, the gold sheet, because the gold sheet is a coin sheet, and the blue sheet, which has never been included in the gray sheet values. And the blue sheet is really the sight unseen sheet and CAC pricing. And so we're going to combine all of these into a single publication for the first time. No longer will dealers be shuffling together, trying to put together the latest set of their sheets and always having something out of date. And it will come out monthly instead of having weekly gray sheets.
Right.
So how do we make up for that? We're going to make up for it by turning the app into real-time pricing. So as spot prices change, prices will change on the sheets. And
right. And as we've seen, truly the rare coin market doesn't change a whole lot week to week. So we were publishing a sheet every single week that obviously reflected changes in bullion values, but sometimes not a whole other lot, because in the course of 7 days there's not a ton of transactions to monitor. So, and then on the flip side of that, we'd have quarterlies that we don't monitor for 3 months at a time. So we're kind of consolidating into 1 month where we look at the entire rare coin market from half cents all the way to $20 gold pieces, and bring in the most up-to-date pricing information, which I think is much more helpful than getting a 16-page sheet every single week.
Really, and it's really not unusual at all for us to get complaints from dealers saying that we're changing prices almost too often. They really don't want to see prices change every single week. Morgan dollars don't need to change every single week. Monthly is fine. And then again, Type 3 $20 gold pieces change right now every 3 months because of the quarterly cycle, and they should change
Much
every
more
month. In
frequently.
fact, the new algorithms that we'll get online in the next few months will actually make those change in real time in tune with spot pricing.
Right. And it's similar to, I guess it was about 2 years ago when, those will remember that Mercury Dimes and Walking Liberty Halves used to be in the weekly, and we moved them to the monthly. And that was, pretty well received because of the fact that those series don't change every single week. And so this is similar and similar to that.
Right. I mean, people who've been following our sheets for the last 2 years, I mean, it's been quite a ride. I mean, we've changed things almost on a monthly basis in all these printed sheets as we're, we've really just tried to figure out what fits in the best places where. And it's been terribly confusing probably for most readers, but at the same time, we are adding pricing left and right. I added over 300 individual prices today.
Right.
In terms of split grades on Indian head pennies and VF and things like that. So we're constantly adding more pricing as well as moving things around and getting it more organized.
Right, and I think that's the key. Is it's not change for the sake of change. It's change to try and streamline what we do, bringing information to you in a more efficient manner, more streamlined, more convenient, and more timely and more accurate. It's not just let's change it just because it's been this way for 50 years. There's a significant thought behind it.
There's a method to our madness.
Yeah.
We haven't figured it out, but somebody will.
Right.
And then when you do figure it out, please let us know. We would love to hear from you. So why don't we just jump into a little bit of a market review at this point and talk about the market. I'll introduce the topic a little bit by explaining how we do arrive at pricing at CDN. A lot of people ask us this. We do report on it regularly, but basically, you have this team. It's Patrick and I, and we've added a new member, Josh, and we're very, we try to keep it very selective, and we don't want a large team of people doing the pricing. We also get pricing assistance from some experts in very arcane areas that we're not specialists in, like colonial coins would be a good example.
Right.
We've recently added territorial gold pricing from someone who is a lifetime expert, and we respect very much. So we will occasionally go outside of our circle to price, but not often,
right.
For consistency purposes. But we look at live auctions, we look at internet auctions, we look at dealer sales, we look at message traffic on the exchanges or on the internet. Facebook has Coin Dealers Helping Coin Dealers is a very popular site that's exploded lately with a lot of members, so we follow that a little bit. We follow bids on CDN Exchange as well as CCE. And then we get phone calls from a lot of dealers around the country, or we go to coin shows and hear anecdotal pieces of evidence about how prices are changing. And we use that to inform our pricing, and we do the very best. We also admit that we'll make mistakes, and we'll fix them as soon as we make them. And sometimes we make the mistakes on purpose, or not on purpose, but they're informed mistakes. Like we'll change a price on purpose, and then later on a dealer will come to us and say, you really made a mistake in that price change, and that's okay. I mean, as many prices as we're working on and we're changing, it's going to happen. But know, as a reader, that you can inform us, and we'll change it very quickly, and we're happy to hear from everybody. So,
right. And of course, it does help that you kind of provide some factual basis to your input, but
it helps quite a bit, actually.
Exactly.
And usually you're going to get the same answer from us if you say, hey, you just made the price of such a coin $200 in AU, and it should have been $225. Really, our first answer is going to be, did you put a bid up? Did you place a bid for that? Because we really want to be able to tell others that, why did you change the bid to $225? Well, so-and-so was bidding on CDN Exchange at $225, or he ran a message on CDN Exchange for that. So we want to be able to help the dealers that are reading our sheets sell their coins and know what the right value is. So that's how we get to our values in its most general, but we really need help from the market. We want to see more market makers placing bids. Eagle Eye Rare Coins, for example, has really solidified the bid levels in Indian cents almost from good to MS65, and that's been incredibly helpful for the marketplace. CAC has literally thousands and thousands of bids on CDN Exchange in the tens of millions of dollars in total exposure to protect CAC values. And what happens is that the market is higher than their bids because they're there just to keep the bottom short up.
Right.
So anybody who really wants to see levels rise in this coin business really just needs to put their money where their mouth is and make a market. We're looking for that.
Right, with a sight bid.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sight bid, sight unseen is even better. Whatever you got,
Right.
we want to hear it. So, Patrick, what do you think? Gold spot price is finally moving up in the last 2 or 3 weeks, right as the stock market's tanking. People are looking to this alternative. They hate Bitcoin. Bitcoin all of a sudden became very dicey, although it
always has been.
Sure is.
But just
so, what do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're up year to date on the gold price, which is a great thing. But it's also been very volatile. It seems like every step up, you get a half step back, and so you're seeing this ladder pattern, which has really impacted the generic gold market, because I think I've noticed a significant pullback in the amount of bids that the market makers are willing to post, because they're worried about sudden falls or even sudden spikes.
Sure.
So it's it's been difficult to price generics, primarily Saints and Type 3 $20 libs.
I guess if you have a gold position and you're hedging it, and gold goes up, now that costs you a lot of money.
Right.
Now you got to cover your hedge. So either way, your exposure is pretty strong. And if you're not hedging your gold position and you're a large gold dealer, you're not going to be around too long.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be underwater pretty soon.
Sure.
So it's impacted generics in the sense that the premiums are extraordinarily low, as they have been for a long time. But as we've seen numerous times, as gold spot goes up, the premium gets compressed, and we're seeing that right now. On the other hand, gold coin is also the hottest area of the rare coin market at the moment. When you're talking early gold and better date gold, there's been multiple 6- and 7-figure transactions, single coin transactions over the past 3 months, where large collectors are coming in and scooping up these coins because number one, they don't come very often, and you can speak a little bit more on that as far as like MS66 Saints have done pretty well lately. There's been some record-breaking auction results, just because I think people are
quite
seeing...
unexpected, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, I mean, in Saints as well as I would say quality matters the most, and it's not. One of the things that I would talk about is that quality isn't at like I have MS65 is the grade you need to buy in, but it's quality relative to the grade. So when we're talking about gold coins, if we're talking about early or better date Liberty Gold or something, what we really want to see, what the market wants to see, is freshness and quality, not the coins that have been through the grading surfaces umpteen times and are completely maxed out and will really just don't look like they belong in that holder.
Right.
So when the coins come in the green, when the old holders, the old NGC fatties or the PCGS green labels, they're going for prices in the next 2 or 3 grade levels, and there's really no way for us to. We see those kinds of prices and we really just call them outliers. But whenever there's high grade going, if we're talking about Saints, we've seen great price examples where Saints were really languishing in high grade, the expensive 5-6 figure Saints in 65 and 66, these better dates that are low pop. People didn't care for, seems like 5 years. Now all of a sudden when they come up for auction, there's a pool of people looking to build gem Saint sets,
right.
and they're stepping on each other to get there.
Yeah, and even some of the very large prices realized lately have come from coins that are not CAC, which is kind of breaking a trend that we've seen over the past
that's right
4 or 5 years.
That's right. If it's a great looking coin in the holder and it's accurately graded, CAC coins are getting a big bump, but non-CAC coins, the demand is spilling into, let's say, non-CAC coins at this point.
Exactly.
Is there any more you want to talk about in market?
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on the currency market real quick because that's kind of one of my areas of personal passion and what I personally collect, world paper money. But U.S. currency market's pretty strong. We saw a little bit of in the fund auction, a little bit of, I guess, divergence where some notes brought really, really strong prices and others, nice notes and actually correctly graded notes kind of languished. So there's a little bit of divergence going on for whatever reason. But the real big market in United States currency going forward is the upcoming auction of the Joel Anderson collection, which is just absolutely tremendous. It's kind of the equivalent of the Pogue collection of U.S. coins. That would be the corollary. And we all saw the attention and the prices that those coins brought.
And the Anderson collection be sold by Stack's Bowers auctions company starting in the March Baltimore show.
Correct.
The first piece of it.
Is the first piece of it. I actually don't know how many parts they're going to sell it in.
I don't think they've announced
that. Hasn't been announced yet. But looking at the first part one, seeing some of the notes in person at Fun was a really awesome thing to do, and I encourage anyone to definitely get a hold of the catalog, because I think it's going to be a reference going forward. And if you have a chance to see the notes in person, and even more so if you're fortunate enough to be able to buy some of the notes, it's a really once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that you put away these notes and you sit on them for 5 to 10 years. I think you're going to be in a good place.
Right. There's many notes in there that are one or two known, and he's got, he's got a note, and then the other note is in a museum or something.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Really, it's many museum quality pieces here, and
absolutely.
maybe it would have been nice to see this all in a museum, but we don't. Now it's for sale, and someone else gets to enjoy them in their collection.
Exactly. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty tremendous. It's going to give a good shot in the arm, I think, to the wider U.S. currency market, because it will bring definitely a lot of press and attention to it.
It should bring some attention. I hope so. There's a lot of 7-figure items there, for sure.
For sure, yeah.
So moving over to some housekeeping topics at this point, there's a couple items that really didn't fit to our regular outline here, so I want to just bring them up. They're things that we're doing here at CDN that we think are pretty exciting. One of them is in reaction to the fact that we constantly get requests for past issues here at CDN, and the dual nature of getting requests for these, and we're not getting hundreds of requests, but we get, one here, one there. And, we've traditionally charged people for the effort of doing it. But what we really think to do is that it's not really going to be a great revenue stream for this company. And in line with a lot of movement in the world of libraries and digital sharing is that we're going to make all of these old editions of the Greysheet, monthly supplement, Greysheet, everything that's after a couple years old, and we think is better for research than anything else, we're going to make available for free via the Newman Numismatic Portal, which is part of the Washington University library project. I've been working on that in the software side. I've been very honored to be part of that project. And if you haven't been to the Newman Numismatic Portal, Google it. It's an unbelievable resource of information. There's thousands of books being digitized. Every document and script that they think is relevant to the hobby is being digitized and made available. So it's a wonderful thing. So at the moment, you can go to this portal and see old CDNs, and you can see a million other publications and auction catalogs and things like that. And soon we'll have it organized on our website as well. So that's what we've been doing here. And then
just to add to that,
sure.
I think it's really cool. I mean, if you have and we're all of us who are involved in coins have some sense of love for history, and if you just want to see the evolution of the Greysheet, we have, I think right now we have the very first one up.
We do.
And
I was looking at it this morning.
1963, and just seeing how the publication has evolved and how prices has evolved, and even reading the commentary. Pick a random year or a random month and read about what was going on in the coin market. I think actually can be very informative, but even it's just really interesting.
Right. I think in the 1960s, most of the headlines that I see when I breeze through it is about rolls. The roll craze of the 1960s, which today nobody would give 2 cents for in terms of interest, but rolls were huge in the 1960s. Go figure.
Right. Exactly.
So very interesting. And let's see what we've also been doing a lot of things, including we have a great app which we don't talk enough about. But if you've stumbled on our app or found it on our website, it's on the Apple Store
and Google Play,
and also Google Play, and just Google CDN Publishing or CDN Coin Pricing, and you'll find our app. And it's free for everyone to get the CPG pricing. And if you're a subscriber to CDN, then you add in your username and password, and you get the pricing. And it's the people who are using it have given us great feedback, and it's not easy to build a great app. We've got a decent app, and we're just going to keep working on it. The other topic that we should bring up is our new project in 2017. We introduced the Gold Sheet, and the Gold Sheet is for modern China coin pricing, and it's been an interesting year. We came in April. We went to a Hong Kong show, and Patrick and I went to Hong Kong, and it's quite a long flight. It's quite an interesting market. It's kind of like the busy coin shows of the 1980s here in the United States, where it's packed and crowded. Everyone's transacting and doing business. It's fun. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what's happening in that market?
Yeah, so the modern Chinese market is something that is, number one, it's very volatile and always has been. There was a huge run up in 2010, 2011, and that kind of caused the whole word Chinese coinage to pop into almost every dealer's head, and some guys jumped in, some didn't. But so with the modern market right now, there's a lot of swings, and it's also seasonal. There's in China, they have Chinese New Year, you have other festivals, and they have week-long holidays, and there's a lot of gift giving, and gold has always been part of that. And a lot of the coins that we cover in the gold sheet are gold pandas, gold lunars, things like that, and those are popular gifts. And they're also popular, what we call master sets. So that's to get every single size panda from the 1/20th ounce all the way to the 1 ounce every single year. And they're amazing when they're fully assembled.
I'm sure
they make special wooden boxes for them.
Quite an investment.
And it's also pushed by banks as investments, as alternate assets. But what happens is when that market gets soft, it gets soft in a hurry and in a big way. But on the flip side, when it gets hot, it gets really hot and prices go up very, very quickly.
What do you think a master set is worth in total, ballpark?
Oh, that's a good question. At the risk of sounding completely uninformed, I would say between $800,000 and $1 million.
Why shouldn't you be informed? How much?
Well, it also depends on grade. If you're trying to get MS70 or if you don't care.
Let's say you don't care.
If you don't care, let's say $600,000.
Okay.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
And how has that price moved, let's say, over the last few years? Or 10 years? Where are you at?
10 years, it's definitely up.
It's definitely up.
10 years, definitely up. What happens, though, is that it takes a long time for the China Mint to release mintages. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you don't know how scarce a date actually is because you don't know how many were out there.
Right.
Versus how many were struck versus how many were sold. And then you have guys who hoard key dates, and all of a sudden a whole bunch appear on the market, and it's not nearly as scarce as it used to be. So all these factors kind of come in, and they happen quickly.
And it is quite an opaque market. I mean, the United States market is probably not transparent by any means, but we are attempting to make it more transparent. But the Chinese market is very hard to know what's going on in the background.
Right, exactly. But one thing that can be said for sure over the past, I would say 6 months now, is that early China is much, much hotter than modern China. So when we talk, they call it vintage overseas. Here we would call it, early. Chinese coinage prior to 1949 essentially is the traditional cutoff when the PRC started.
Okay.
But the early silver, dragon dollars and other crown-sized coins in high grade are extremely popular right now, and then copper.
Interesting, and interestingly also, NGC has started a stamp grading division. Right. Where they're certifying and grading the PRC stamps from 1949 on, and it's, I think, a limited release so far, but I've seen, if you go to their website or some of the emails I've seen, the pictures of the slabs with the stamps are actually beautiful. And
yeah.
Maybe that can spill over into other collectible U.S. stamps or something like that, but it's just testament to where they think PRC market is.
That's true, and as opposed to here where coins are the overwhelming favorite and tower over stamps and paper money, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. In China, it's very equal. There's a lot of people who collect paper money. There's a lot of people that collect stamps, and there's a lot of people that collect coins. It's not, one doesn't have a major hegemony over the other.
Well, it's a perfect time for you to do a shameless plug for your book, by the way.
Right. So very soon, I'll be releasing
it's been very soon for a while, actually.
A guidebook on People's Republic of China paper money. Issued by the PBOC, People's Bank of China, from 1949 to present. It's informative, but it's really the primary motive behind it is a price guide. Mm-hmm. So that dealers and collectors, because the market can be all over the place, and so we price it in multiple grades, certified grades, because that's a huge impact in paper money. World paper money right now is the certified grade.
There's no pricing in these multiple grades that people are really transacting.
Right, and especially for Chinese notes, a 65 and a 67, sometimes the price can be worlds apart.
And nobody knows, right?
And no one knows.
Thank you for working on that. In fact, maybe one day we can add those to the Greysheet, which would be great. Then we can introduce American buyers to PRC notes and maybe even expand to popular. We love, you and I both love, like the Mexican notes and Philippines,
Canadian,
and Canadian notes. A lot of other collectible areas that would benefit from the transparency of real pricing as opposed to what's available today, which is very little.
Yeah, and especially in the frequency of the update. A lot of paper money books come out every 3 years, and the market changes much quicker than that.
Right. Absolutely. So that's great. We look forward to seeing that book. I know that book's been with us and working on the graphics department and things like that. It just subordinates to some of these bigger projects we've been really busy with. So we're excited to get that out soon.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a wrap for our first.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Hope this first episode gets you to come back. We will obviously be producing this regularly.
We'll try to make it interesting. We'll try to argue more in the future. That's our goal. Right now we're too agreeable, but we're going to work on it.
And if there's something you want to see covered or a question, or hey, I want to learn about this, please shoot us an email. editor@greysheet.com would be the best place to do that. And talk to you next time.
Yeah, and if you would like to sponsor, if you're a dealer and you would like to sponsor a future podcast, please let us know. Call Billy at our office and she'll help you out.